A lot of people want to go to university but don't know what degree to do. So I'm going to share with you a step-by-step process that you can follow to choose the right degree for you, and it 100% worked for me. In my time working at university, what I found is that most of us fall into two groups. And the first group already knows what they want to do, right? And maybe a lot of your friends fall into this group, but they already know what they want to do. They're already really passionate about something. Whereas I feel most of us fall into the second group, which is where we don't know what degree we want to do. I knew I wanted to go to uni, but I didn't know what I wanted, except that I knew I wanted to get a piece of paper at the end of it that would get me a job so I could make some money and have a life. So this is the process that I followed to do that. And the first thing I found that was really helpful was to choose a mandatory degree. And by that, I mean choosing a degree that's actually needed for a job. Because there's a lot of jobs out there that don't need a degree, right? So some classic examples of jobs that need degrees are like medicine. You can't be a doctor without a medicine degree. You can't be a lawyer without a law degree. And you can't be a teacher, you guessed it, without a teaching degree. But you can start a business or work your way up in a big business without a business degree. Yeah, sure, it can help, but so can going and getting an internship tomorrow and working your way up in a business and learning from other people already working in a business day in, day out. Some other examples are if you wanted to be a personal trainer, you don't need to go and get a sports science degree. You can go and get certified as a personal trainer and start working relatively quickly and making some money. Some other ones that to think about are whether that degree, even though there might be a qualified job at the end of it, is whether there are any jobs in the industry at all, or how many there are. Marine biology is a really great example of this. A lot of people love to go and study marine biology. You know, we love learning about coral and fish and the ocean. We love the idea of being able to dive for work, but there's not many jobs at the end of it. I have a few friends that studied a marine biology degree and now they work as snorkel guides on tourist boats. And they could have got that job without a degree, and it's a fairly low paying job. So going and getting their marine biology degree didn't really help them in terms of their life goals. The next step is, after I'd thought about those sorts of things, I actually grabbed a piece of paper and I divided it up into two columns. And in one column I called it deal breakers, and in the other column I called it ideal living conditions. And then what I did is I sat down and I thought about all the things that I wanted in my life, what I wanted my life to look like. So for example, was I happy to work day shift and night shift? Was I happy to work swing shifts? They're really common in some industries like mining, where you work 7 days or 14 days in a row before you get a week off. So if you're not happy to work 14 days in a row, 12-hour shifts, year in, year out, there's no point in going and getting a degree that leads you to that life, like mining engineering, right? There's no point in doing that to yourself and being miserable. Some other things to think about was whether I was happy to work regionally or remote, or if I didn't want to leave the city I was living in. And that's a big deal breaker for a lot of people, right? They don't want to leave their family, and that's fair enough. But I found it really helpful to write all those things down that I wanted my life to look like. I then decided what I needed as a minimum starting wage after I finished university. Money's not everything, but it sure does matter. And only you know your living costs, right? So you know how much money you need to cover your living costs, and then hopefully make some savings and make some investments. And maybe you'll have some debt at the end of university, so you have to factor that in as well. For example, I chose a geology degree, and graduate geologists make $20,000 a year more instantly compared to a graduate teacher. And that's just the graduate starting wage. Obviously, wages go up over time, but for a geologist that's now got 10 years experience, for example, they're going to earn an average between $115,000 and $135,000 a year, whereas your average lawyer is going to earn between $80,000 and $100,000, and your average physiotherapist is going to be earning around $95,000. That's a big range and a big difference. So it's something to think about. I popped down in my ideal living conditions column on my piece of paper my minimum starting wage that I wanted to make when I finished, because that was important to me. Then what I did was I thought about all of my interests broadly. Now you can be specific about this, like if you know you love medicine, sure, pop that down, but I found it more helpful to write down my interests broadly. So things like I love playing sport, or if you like even just watching sport, you could put that down. Other things like, do you love helping people? Then once you have all your interests down, or at least in your mind, then you want to link that with a degree that's on offer from a university, right? So for example, if you love helping people, you've got your classic examples of doing medicine and nursing, but you also have the entire mental health sector, so psychology, psychiatry, even teaching is helping people, social work. If you love sport or watching sport, physiotherapy, a PE teacher, occupational therapy. So I found that really helpful to list all the associated degrees with each interest, and remembering our first point that it should be a mandatory degree, so there should be a job at the end of it that requires that degree. The next step is I shortlisted my degrees. So from that list that I had made linked to my interests, I crossed off all the ones that didn't match my ideal living conditions. So if it meant that I had to work lots of night shift, or maybe work regionally remote and I wasn't happy with that, I would cross it off. Some other good examples are if, for example, you pop down teaching, but you're an introvert, and the idea of standing up in front of a group of students day in, day out and doing public speaking is horrifying to you, then you should 100% cross that off. But what I found was really helpful was to write a note of why I was crossing it off. because that really clarified for me as I was going through what degree I would choose in the end. So at the end of that process, I had quite a short list of degrees that matched things that I was interested in, matched my ideal living conditions, and matched my minimum starting wage. And from that, I found one degree really jumped out at me. It was really obvious to me which one it should be, and hopefully it will be for you. But that next step of choosing a degree from your shortlist, I found there was two more points that were really helpful. And the first was choosing a degree with a title that your employer understands. And by that I mean I chose a Bachelor of Science majoring in geology, but other universities had a Bachelor of Earth Science, and another one had a Bachelor of Land and Water Science. Now, if I had gone and done that degree and then gone to an employer and said, hi, I want to get a job as a geologist, they would have looked at my piece of paper and said, well, you have a Bachelor of Land and Water Science, you're not qualified. Even if I'd done geology subjects, it didn't matter. The title of your degree matters, especially in the beginning. So make sure whatever degree you choose, that the title matches the job that you want at the end of it. And that may mean that you have to go to a different university, but it's really important to look at that. And the other thing to consider is whether an undergraduate degree is enough for the job that you want. An example of that is in Australia, you can't do a psychology bachelor degree and then go and work as a psychologist. You have to go and do a master's of clinical psych, right? So you have to go and do your graduate studies on top of your undergraduate degree before you can get that job. And that's fine if that's your choice, but make sure that you're informed and you have that knowledge before you choose your degree from your shortlist.